A rising UFC star, Michael Morales, otherwise known as Spider-Man, has been hinting at a potential next fight for quite a while now. A few months back, he was actually included in some names that would have been next up to fight Islam Makhachev. I had been telling you guys ever since those rumors had started that Ian Gary was going to be the next guy to fight Islam, and I was proven right. But then that leaves Michael Morales, out in the open, or pretty much on the back burner until a victor between that fight is decided on. So, there's a couple things Michael Morales could have done from there, but then you also have to factor in that Carlos Prates, a totally different rising star in the UFC's welterweight division, is also pretty much deserving of a title shot. So what do you do when you have two potential number one contenders? If you're thinking logically, you square them off and you find out who's the true number one contender. And I think that's what the UFC is about to do. Now, Michael Morales, again, he's been teasing that even though he didn't get the fight against Islam Makhachev, he has a fight coming up. Carlos Prates, ever since he had his last fight knocking out JDM, he has been saying that he'll accept nothing less than a title shot. But I think the UFC pretty much put the screws to him and forced him into fighting in one more title eliminator match against Michael Morales. Because I don't really see any other current welterweight being a better matchup for Michael Morales than Carlos Prates. And I think Michael Morales versus Carlos Prates is a must-watch, high-flying, fireworks on the feet type of fight. And I think the UFC was salivating at the chance to square these two off, and jumped at the opportunity to do so, despite Carlos Prates potentially being uneasy about this matchup. I think Carlos Prates, behind the scenes, doesn't want to fight Michael Morales, but what I think the reality of the whole situation is that Dana White or Hunter Campbell or some other affiliate of the UFC called Carlos Prates up and told him, hey, you did great in your last fight. I get it. In any other world, you would have gotten a title shot next up. But there's another guy in this division who also looks like a number one contender. And the only way to get a real number one contender is to square you two off. If you don't want to fight Michael, you're going to have to sit on the back burner while we find another fighter for Michael to fight. And then the winner of that fight is going to fight the victor between Islam and Ian Gary in August. And you will have to sit on the back burner until, two more title fights. That's when we can fit you in for a title fight. So you're going to have to wait until the welterweight title has been fought over 2 times until you finally get your chance, which is probably going to take you into late 2027 when you finally get your shot at a title. So I think Carlos Prates thought about it and said, hey, I got to make a decision. Do I want to sit on the back burner and wait, for practically a year until I get my title shot? Or do I want to fight for the title right now, fight in a title eliminator match, and earn my right or earn my place as the next guy up for the welterweight title after the title fight this August? And I think Prates made the decision to finally, take the fight against Michael Morales. And I think that's the best thing for him. It's the best thing for the UFC. It's the best thing for the fans, because Michael Morales and Carlos Prates are two flaming hot rising stars right now in the welterweight division. Michael Morales, I'd say a little bit more so because he's on a hotter streak rather than Carlos Prates, who recently lost to Ian Gary, but since has picked his momentum back up and looks twice as dangerous as he did before he fought Ian Gary. So yeah, it's going to be a huge fight, a stellar fight between two guys who have seemed unstoppable, in more moments than not. So I look forward to it. And if you were to ask me what happens in this fight, I gotta say it's a really, really hard fight for me to think about. I think about this fight and I think about what I told you guys before Diego Lopez and Gene Silva fought, which is that I see this fight as a true 50-50. And I still see Gene Silva versus Diego Lopez as a 50-50 fight. I think what happened in that fight was a, puncher's chance type of moment. And credit to Diego for seizing it and getting it. But again, when thinking about skill sets and how talented those two are, it's band for band. It's band for band on talent. Diego Lopez knocking guys out with his explosiveness. Gene Silva doing the same, but with more of his artistic striking style. I see this fight the same way. Michael Morales is a really, really talented fighter. You know, gifted with power, with precision. Again, with a really fun striking style as well. Capable on the ground. Um, just an all-around talent. And then you have Carlos Prates, who may not be as capable on the ground, but is, you know, extremely, extremely powerful, as well as extremely talented in maintaining and managing his range. He utilizes his length and his physical abilities better than most people in the UFC ever. And he's turned into an absolute monster that way. You know, he utilizes really, really great striking technique, backed by a ton of power behind his hands, and further backed by incredible reach. You know, he's very dangerous, and he'll be very dangerous against, you know, Michael Morales. I think when thinking about the power factor, I think Carlos Prates has the larger power factor, which is why I would give him more of the puncher's chance in this fight. But what I'd like to see from Michael Morales is mixing in ground game, because I think that's what he's going to have to do to win this fight. I think it's a very dangerous fight for Michael Morales. I don't, you know, when I say that, I don't mean that, you know, Michael Morales is a baby in the woods in this fight and that Carlos is you know, obviously going to starch him. No, Michael Morales, like I said, is really, really talented on the feet, and he could definitely, you know, utilize or go into some sort of flow state or utilize some great technique and speed to get around the reach of Carlos Prates and land his punches. But I said the same thing about JDM, and what happened with JDM happened. You know, Carlos Prates was able to destroy JDM. So he definitely could destroy Michael Morales if Michael Morales does not decide to grapple and decides to just strike with Carlos Prates throughout the entire fight, you know? And it's like I said, this is no dig towards Michael Morales. I just feel like reach advantage, you know, at least Carlos Prates' reach advantage is such a insurmountable factor favoring Carlos Prates that anyone in front of Carlos is an incredible danger of eating some huge shot behind incredibly long arms, backed with a ton of power that will likely put them to sleep. And Michael Morales is one of those guys. And it kind of hurts to say that because, again, Michael Morales is so talented, and I want to say that, you know, he'll have an incredible chance to, you know, duke it out really well with Carlos Prates on the feet, but I just don't see it. I feel like the key to Michael Morales winning this fight is taking it to the ground, practicing your takedowns and shooting them relentlessly in this fight to get Prates to the ground and utilize his reach against him. You know, throw in the arm bars, throw in the triangle chokes, Americanas, Kimuras, omoplatas, you know, like things that you can involve Carlos Prates' arms in, because again, they're incredibly long, and that can serve as a disadvantage on the ground, you know? Not a huge one, especially if the tall guy, if the lanky guy is a you know, really good jiu-jitsu practitioner, which I think Carlos Prates, you know, kind of is. Like, Prates is, like, when I talk about all these guys and their disadvantages, I don't mean that Carlos Prates, again, is like a baby in the woods as well when it comes to ground game, you know? But I feel like his length can be used against him with the right type of grappler. And Michael Morales could be that grappler if he wants to be. You know, I know we're in the day and age of the UFC where everybody wants to become some huge striker and go for the knockout punches no matter what. But sometimes you have to play it smart. You have to be the one that tries to grapple. You can't always be the machismo, I'm going to duke it out with him no matter what type of guy. Because when you try to do that, most often than not, you're going to eat a big punch and you're going to go to sleep. Or, you know, you may come out with a really strong chin, but just end up being dropped 4 or 5 times and losing by a safe decision or a safe significant strike percentage margin, things like that. Like Paddy Pimblett underwent against Justin Gaethje. You know, Pimblett's known as a really big, talented, smart, crafty grappler, and he stepped in there with Justin Gaethje to brawl and not grapple at all. And he paid for it. He paid for it by getting dropped 4 or 5 times. So if Michael Morales wants to play that game, you know, it's a risky game to play, but it could also yield some high reward. But again, you have to really factor in the incredible risk when you're going against the guy as gifted in range, in power, and technique, and IQ as Carlos Prates is. You know, he goes by the Nightmare. He's looking like one, and he's been looking like one for the past couple fights now. You know, so much so that I'm scared for Islam to fight him. You know, so yeah, man, it's a great fight. I hope this is the fight that's actually being made for Michael Morales and not some other welterweight out there that I don't think is fit for that type of matchup. You know, when I think about the top few names at welterweight, none come to mind that really are reasonably or should reasonably be coupled with Michael Morales for a fight in the near future, other than Carlos Prates. So yeah, here's to it actually being Michael Morales versus Carlos Prates, a fight between two really blazing hot rising stars in the UFC's welterweight division. And after that clash, we'll see who truly is the number one young, hungry, ready contender to fight the winner of Ian Gary versus Islam Makhachev. Overall, let me know what you think. Like I said, I'm gonna go. Oh wait, I didn't even tell you guys my prediction because I told you guys. Let me just real quick tell you my prediction. So again, like I said, Michael Morales has to be careful on the feet. With that being said, I'm gonna still go with Michael Morales though. I feel like Carlos Prates, yes, really talented, really great range, really great power, really great IQ on the feet. It's just that grappling hole in his game that still worries me. And I think if Morales is willing to dedicate himself to some really strong, skillful, relentless grappling, he'll get the sub. Maybe late in the fight or maybe like halfway through, but he'll get the sub. I think so. You know, maybe he'll take a page out of Ian Gary's book and try to like really employ some really high technical skill to outmatch Prates, but I think it's still an incredible risk. And I just don't see Michael Morales as having as high of a fight IQ as Ian Gary does. I've told you guys time and time again, Ian Gary has one of the highest fight IQs in the UFC. Highest fight IQs of all time in the UFC. That's why he was able to just, you know, minimize Carlos Prates' talents and come out with a decision win against one of the scariest guys currently in the game. I don't think Michael Morales can replicate it because I sadly, and this is no dig to Michael Morales, I don't think Michael Morales is as smart fight IQ wise as Ian Gary. I might be proven wrong though. Overall, I'm still going to go with Michael Morales to win because I'm going to assume he's going to grapple Carlos Prates, take advantage of that grappling size hole, and submit Prates halfway to later in the fight. Yeah, that's just my thing. I'm riding on hope. Overall, let me know what you think.